Okay, I'm gonna redo my animated text that I did in class. I forgot to record it, so I just created a workspace and typed the word boo, put it in there, and I'm just going to scale that down a little bit. Seems kind of big. All right, so I'm starting with this type. So the way I did this was I made this animate. I made this animate so it looked like it was kind of waving in the air. And I did that using a fractal noise, and it was animated, as well as a displacement map on the type. So it's two different techniques that are combined to make the one effect. So I'm going to start off by creating a solid. If I just right click down here in my timeline, new solid, I'll just make a white solid. It doesn't matter what color it is. And then I'm going to go over here to my effects and presets, and let's just type, start typing fractal, and it's the noise and grain fractal effect that we want to use here. So I'm just going to double click on that, and that'll apply it. There are a lot of settings in here. You really just got to work your way through them. Try them out. Experiment. Experimenting is the best way to get to do anything, in my opinion. So I'm just going to set, they've got all these different settings for this fractal noise, and you'll see them changing. But I'm just going to set it to dynamic, and soft linear, I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to invert it, so I've got black holes with white filament. And then contrast is where this makes some pretty defined shapes. So I jump the contrast up to around 400, and under transform I want to scale this up, because the tighter this texture is, it's going to affect our type in different ways. So if I've got a big kind of pattern, it's going to create a more general wavy effect, a more gentle wavy effect. But if I've got a really small fractal pattern, it's going to make it very rough and kind of jittery, more than likely. So I want to start this off, and actually maybe I'll try it both ways, but I'm going to start off by scaling this up about 230% or so. And then, so that's my fractal noise. So I want to start off with this, apply it as a displacement map to my type, and then we'll make adjustments to it from there, because I want to see how it behaves. If I can't see how it behaves, it's kind of hard to know what I need to do to it next. So I'm going to select that type, boo, go back over here to my effects and presets, and type displace, and I'm going to use the displacement map that's under the distort category. Double click on that. It's applied to that type. And so I'm just going to set the displacement map layer is going to be my white solid 1. And the source, I'm going to use effects and mask. And you see how it kind of adjusts. So if I didn't animate my fractal, which would be good since we want to actually make this look like it's waving and animated. So I need to, let's do this first. Since we're in here, what really affects the amount of movement, aside from the fractal, is this max horizontal displacement and vertical displacement. So they're set to 5 right now, and if I adjust these, you'll be able to see the difference in the type as I do it. So I'm sliding this over to about 20 or so, And this one I'm going to slide over 20 or so as well. And you can see the difference that comes into play. If I turn off that fractal, I've already, had a decent effect on it. So I need to animate this, which means I need to go back to my fractal because I forgot to do that in the first place. So let's go back here. Let's open this up and we animate that fractal through evolution. So I'm going to start at 0 and just set a keyframe for that and come across to, I've got a 20-second timeline here. So, and all I need to do is spin this dial around. Each revolution, it'll be 1 revolution plus 27 degrees. So I'm actually just going to revolve it 12 times, let's say. Now let's turn that off and see what we get. So it's not bad. We're getting that kind of motion effect. But I feel as though it's, if I go to full, what does that do? Any difference? Nope. Okay. So, but I feel like it's really kind of too detailed. I want something a little smoother, a little more gradual, wavy. So remember that we can stack all of our different effects. So on this white solid, I'm just going to go in here to my layer or effect menu, go down to blur, and there's a boatload of blurs available here too. Try some different ones out. You get different effects. You might find something really cool. I'm just going to use a Gaussian blur because I know where I'm going with this. And so I put that in, and I'm just going to crank the blurriness on that up to about 30, but see how it's affecting my type. So I've gone from that really tight kind of detailed kind of texture, and I'm getting something much more gradual now. And play with these settings. I mean, crank them way up beyond belief. That actually is much more flag-like. That works out pretty nicely. I probably wouldn't have gone that far if as a rule of thumb, I go as far as I can one way or another to see what the effect is, and then I dial it back and kind of work my way in. So that gives us a relatively nice wavy kind of effect. And we could try a couple of different things here. Maybe I turn that effect off. By clicking that FX, I can turn it off. I also want to point out that effects get their own panel up here, but you can also access these down here under your object in your timeline under effects. All the settings are there. Especially if you want, if you want to fine tune how you animate these over the course of the timeline, you'll need to come down here to do it. But up here is good for setting up our basic stuff. I'm going to try one other blur here real quick just because it might give us something kind of cool, or this might be a total bust. So I did Gaussian blur before. Let's do radial blur. Let's see what we get. And so it's got some different settings. I'm going to leave it at defaults for now, but I'm going to crank up the amount to like 250. And let's see what that does. Drop this down so that I can. It's not much of an effect, but it's different. I don't know, fading zoom, what that does. It's a different effect. I mean, it gives you a different overall motion. Straight zoom. Rotate. So you can try some different ones. That didn't really have as much of an effect as I was kind of hoping it would have. So we'll just go back to the original we had. You can leave these effects in there if you turn them off. But I try to keep them cleaned out just so I know. We can stack all sorts of effects here. So Possibly twirl. Let's see what happens if we apply that to our displacement map. It changes the effect even more. So playing around with stacking these effects can have a huge impact on what it is you're animating. You know, and once you find something you like, save it off to a library. Keep a library of effects that you like, something you can come back to at some point, because chances are good, if you continue doing the motion graphics stuff, you're going to need stuff like that again, and it's just good reference, so you can see what you've done before, how you build it out, and that kind of thing. Also, don't forget that under effects and presets, there are a bunch of presets. All that these are stacked effects, out of the box effects, like we've been doing right here, put together for different things. Take a look at those, tear them apart, and have fun with them.